Dang, TMZ. Tootie Raw, Lil Boosie son, I just put his ass in jail. I told his baby mama don't be talking that goddamn shit to me. I knew that boy had that switch in it. Cause you know they get him boy over there. They get him 10 years over that bitch.
Tootie Raw, Boosie's son, was just given a 10-year prison sentence for carrying a switch. What is the most absurd aspect? He was placed there by Charleston White, who was claiming responsibility. Charleston said he contacted the feds after Tootie threatened him online. Shortly thereafter, video emerged showing Tootie being taken into custody while carrying the illicit weapon in his vehicle. Now, rap icon Boosie, who made a fortune in the music industry, must watch his own son waste everything in his quest for street influence. A legend from Baton Rouge, he overcame shootouts, federal prosecutions, and diabetes to become a millionaire via music, hard work, and determination. You would think that Tootie Raw, his son, would grow up in a world far different from the insanity Boosie was a part of. And in the internet-driven world of today, that meant sharing gaudy videos of him brandishing firearms, smoking drugs, and carrying cash. Tootie was searching for approval on the streets, a different avenue. Despite the fact that his father was wealthy and could afford him luxury, comfort, and access to the industry, he was not exactly stopped by Boosie either. Boosie was known to be candid about allowing Tootie to see the real world, in contrast to some rappers who attempt to protect their children from the life they once led. Boosie boasted about letting his kids hustle, smoke, and hang out with street guys in innumerable interviews and clips. Boosie believed that allowing them to experience the world in its unadulterated state was more important than shielding them from it. Unfiltered, Boosie even publicly stated at one point that he preferred his sons to be rugged, streetwise, and game-savvy rather than soft, insular suburbia youngsters. It may either make you look real or set you up for failure in the rap game. Tootie Raw had already established a reputation for recklessness on the internet by the time he was in his mid-teens. Videos of him smoking extensively, arguing with opponents on Instagram Live, and showing off weaponry he should not have had surfaced. He was attempting to walk the same precarious line his father barely made it through. Rather than being prepared for the music business in a safe, calculated manner, it seemed like a ticking time bomb to many of the fans who were watching. The Charleston White incident followed. Tootie began corresponding with Charleston online before the arrest even occurred. For background, one of the most contentious voices on the internet is Charleston White, a man who proudly snitched, exposed street politics, and trotted artists to build his platform. He boasts, creates material around it, and uses it as a weapon against anyone who attempts to stop him. He does not just declare he will call the police. Therefore, Tootie's threat against Charleston was a prelude to a real-life outcome rather than just another online feud. Tootie, who was still impetuous and youthful, believed that speaking slickly to Charleston gave the impression that he was tough. Tootie Raw was seen in handcuffs on police video after being found in possession of a firearm, altered with a switch, one of the riskiest and most illegal gun accessories you can own. A switch transforms a standard pistol into a fully automatic weapon that can fire dozens of rounds in a matter of seconds. For those who are unaware, it is the kind of thing that suddenly turns a possession charge into a possible federal sentence of up to 10 years, and that was Boosie's worst nightmare. The youngster he brought up to be honest and tough was now facing adult charges that may cost him 10 years of his life. It was depressing for a lot of supporters, and now their entire family would be shaken by the prison term that resulted from all that freedom. This was the terrible truth of generational cycles, not simply another rap headline. A parent who battled his way out of poverty only to watch his son voluntarily fall into the same traps from which he had just managed to escape. And Tootie was not just caught slipping. If Charleston White's allegations were accurate, he was purposefully placed in that situation by a man who made it his goal to imprison the children of rappers. The setup, the beef, and Charleston White. Charleston White is one of the most skilled manipulators in hip-hop culture. He is not a rapper. In the streets, he is not an original. He is an outspoken online personality who has made a name for himself by contacting the police on anyone who threatens him, exposing dirt and insulting rappers. For some, he is a truth-teller who makes rappers answer for their actions. He is considered by some to be the greatest internet snitch in existence. In addition to calling out Boosie directly, he also dragged King Von's family, NBA Youngboy's children, and pretty much anyone else who provided him with ammunition and was connected to the streets. Charleston therefore locked in when Tootie Raw appeared online, talking slickly and threatening people. Charleston claims that Tootie went live and made a clear threat, claiming he would harm him. Charleston only needed that. Charleston turned it into content rather than disregarding it. Clowning Tootie and Boosie, he began to make film after video, while boasting that he would call the police as soon as something went wrong.
Boosie, your boy don't know how to fight. Neither do that T.I. little yellow mother. Long hair.
He even warned bluntly, "I will make sure the feds know if Boosie's youngster keeps flashing switches." That would sound like trolling to most people. And for that reason, this meet was quite risky, because the inevitable occurred shortly after Charleston White made those claims. There was footage of Tootie Raw being taken into custody. When police arrived, they found him in possession of a handgun that had been modified to include a switch. A switch is not just another gun accessory, for people who do not realize how important it is. It transforms a simple Glock into a little machine gun that can fire 20 to 30 bullets in a matter of seconds. That is handled by law enforcement in the same manner as an unlawful machine gun. Additionally, the possession of it carries a mandatory 10-year federal penalty. The arrest video quickly went viral online. As police examined Tootie's car, you can see him in handcuffs and appearing shocked in the footage. Fans made the connection right away. Charleston White had been discussing a situation just like this. He claimed he set the feds on him and now found himself imprisoned and facing the very accusations Charleston had forewarned him about. Charleston took credit right away. He said, "I told y'all. I told you all I was going to grab Boosie's boy," while chuckling at the incident on livestream.
Hey, listen, Boosie, I told you I was gonna get that boy to crash out.
His goal was to portray a gangster. He will now sit down for 10 minutes. Regardless of how tough these rapper kids appear, a phone call can change their lives permanently like Boosie, which was evidence that the system works in his favor. It was a nightmare. Imagine being a father who spent his entire life fighting to get out of poverty while incarcerated, only to see your kid fall into the same pitfalls. After publicly denouncing Charleston White as a rat, a clout seeker, and a man who disregards black culture, Boosie's worst nightmare suddenly became a reality for his kid. He grew up to be real, and now Street was facing adult charges that, for many admirers, might cost him 10 years of his life. A sad back into the same traps was what happened. If Charleston White's allegations were accurate, he once narrowly avoided being caught sliding. If there is one guy in hip-hop culture who knows how to push buttons, it is him. He was purposefully placed in his position by a man who made it his goal to put rappers' children in jail in Charleston, based on the beef and the setup. The color is Charleston White. He is not a rapper. He's not a street inventor. He is an outspoken online personality who made his entire reputation by making fun of musicians. He is a truth teller who makes rappers answerable by exposing wrongdoing and alerting the police on anyone who threatens him. Others believe he is the world's largest online spy. In addition to calling out Boosie himself, he also dragged King Von's family, NBA young lads, and the general public who provided him with ammunition. Charleston claims he locked in when 2D Raw went live and threatened him directly, stating he would harm him. This happened after 2D went online and started talking slick and making threats. Charleston only required that. Charleston turned it into content rather than disregarding it, and he began producing video after video, clowning 2D while intoxicated and boasting that he would contact the police as soon as something went wrong.
Boosie, your boy don't know how to fight. Neither do that T.I. little yellow mother. Long.
He even warned bluntly, "I will make sure the feds know if Boosie's youngster keeps flashing switches." That would sound like trolling to most people. And for that reason, this meet was quite risky, because the inevitable occurred shortly after Charleston White made those claims. There was footage of Tootie Raw being taken into custody. When police arrived, they found him in possession of a handgun that had been modified to include a switch. A switch is not just another gun accessory, for people who do not realize how important it is. It transforms a simple Glock into a little machine gun that can fire 20 to 30 bullets in a matter of seconds. That is handled by law enforcement in the same manner as an unlawful machine gun. What about the penalty? Just having it carries a mandatory 10-year federal sentence. The arrest video quickly went viral online. As police examined Tootie's car, you can see him in handcuffs and appearing shocked in the footage. Fans made the connection right away. Charleston White had been discussing a situation just like this. He claimed to have put the feds on him, and now he was imprisoned and facing the very accusations Charleston had forewarned of. Family. Charleston took credit right away. "I told y'all," he said, laughing as he went live about the incident. "I promised you all that I would get Boosie's boy." His goal was to portray a gangster. He will now sit down for 10 minutes. It was evidence that he benefits from the system, that regardless of how tough these young rappers appear, a single phone call in their life can change irrevocably. But this was a nightmare for Boosie. Imagine being a father who has spent his entire life fighting to get out of jail and poverty, only to see your kid fall into the same traps. Boosie has previously made no secret of his hatred for Charleston White, calling him a clout chaser, a rat, and a man who denigrates black culture. Others said that Tootie was not at fault. Knowing full well that it carried federal heat, he was the one who rode about with a switch. In any case, the harm was done. There was a new headline on the internet. Tootie Raw, Boosie's son, was arrested using a switch. Charleston White was dancing on his demise in the backdrop as he faced 10 years. This incident brought attention to a larger cultural issue than Charleston versus Tootie. It demonstrated the perilous state of the internet for rappers and their children. You could work discreetly on the streets back in the day. The instant the cuffs were applied, The threats, the flexing, and the drive to establish himself as a true street person all came tumbling down. The switch, the sentence, and the arrest. Many fans initially believed it to be just another ordinary gun arrest when the news first surfaced. Rappers and their children are frequently stopped with guns, and from a legal perspective, that is now a machine gun rather than just a pistol. To put it in perspective, a switch is a little gadget that attaches to the back and is typically 3D manufactured or illegally imported of a handgun. It can convert a semi-automatic weapon to fully automatic with a single flick, which means that as long as the trigger is pressed, the pistol will continuously shoot. Although Tootie was supposedly riding around with it like it was just another item, it is the same weaponry that soldiers use in combat. Switches do not play with federal legislation. Even if you have never fired one, you still face a mandatory minimum penalty of 10 years in prison for possessing one. Once you are caught, there is no probation, no smack on the wrist, no celebrity privilege, and nothing else. This case struck so strongly for just that reason. Tootie was seen in handcuffs in the arrest video, looking less like the strong street persona he had developed online, and more like a terrified teenager. Everyone knew the time when the officers took the weapon out of the car, and the internet noticed the switch. The scene in the courtroom was not much better. Tootie reportedly sat quietly during the reading of the charges because he knew there would not be much of a defense. Federal cases involving switches are tight, in contrast to state gun trials where attorneys can look for weaknesses. The law was obvious, the video was there, and the proof was there. Upon its conclusion, the judge presented the hammer. 10 years. Online reactions were instantaneous. Tootie's sentence, according to several supporters, was excessively severe for someone so young. Others contended that he deserved it because of his careless behavior on social media. Videos of Boosie responding started to circulate. They showed him becoming agitated, upset, and snapping at Charleston White. He discussed how unjust that was. Charleston was focusing on his family and the way the system is constantly ready to imprison young black guys. He allowed danger to embrace him rather than drag him away, and suddenly there were actual repercussions. Whatever the point of culpability, one thing was obvious. There was no way Tootie Raw was going home. Parenting, generational cycles, and Boosie. The online discussion turned to a more profound query as the dust calmed and the headlines changed from arrest to sentencing. How has it progressed this far? Because this was more than a single traffic stop or Charleston White. This was about the way of life Boosie let his son lead, which many people thought was a surefire way to end up in jail right from the start. Let us be honest. Boosie is a legendary rapper. The culture respects his discography, his narrative, and his perseverance in the rap game. That taught them to be true men, in his opinion. And that kind of thinking makes sense in Baton Rouge. Boosie grew raised in a setting where survival depended on having street smarts. You did not last if you were not sharp. Therefore, he believed that allowing Tootie to roam the neighborhood, sell marijuana, and hang out with the homeless was not carelessness, but rather preparation. It was meant to fortify him, and Boosie let him run with it rather than yanking him away. Online, that choice generated a great deal of discussion. Boosie was backed by several followers who claimed that it is impossible to manage an adolescent who's already enmeshed in the stereotype of a youthful rapper. They maintained that Tootie made his own decisions, and that Boosie did what he believed was best, but some were not so understanding. They said that by supporting the very conduct that led to Tootie's incarceration, Boosie failed as a father. They cited videos of Tootie brandishing firearms without his father objecting, clips of Boosie joking about his son smoking, and even instances where Boosie said he wanted his children to be street. Critics said this was the natural result of his parenting method, and now he faces a 10-year term. Why? Because being the wealthy child of a rapper does not guarantee respect in the realm of social media and clout. If anything, it causes others to doubt your sincerity. Therefore, many of these kids want to show that they are as real as the neighborhoods from which their dads originated, rather than flaunting their homes or fancy cars. And it typically entails risky conduct, drugs, and firearms, exactly the kinds of dangers their parents battled so hard to escape. The most recent illustration of the cycle was Tootie Raw. He pursued the same challenges his father had once evaded, despite being born into affluence. He is currently dealing with the same repercussions: time in prison, lost liberty, and a future. It does not resemble the one his father constructed for him at all. Afterward, there's for him. This had nothing to do with parenting arguments or generational cycles. This demonstrated to him that he is winning the battle against rap culture. He boasted that he had gotten another one imprisoned and hailed Tootie's demise as a triumph. Charleston believes that rappers and their children are encouraging violence and devastation, so he is willing to use the law to stop them. It does not matter if you agree with Charleston or not. Tootie is in jail and his family must deal with the fallout. What comes next is the more important question. Will Boosie's other children learn a lesson from this? Will it alter how rappers bring up their kids? Or will the cycle continue as more hip-hop boys strive for the same look and incur the same costs? In conclusion, the cycle goes on. Ultimately, this tale is about more than just Boosie's son. The truth is that no amount of wealth, notoriety, or achievement can completely shield the next generation from the sway of the streets. Tootie Raw had everything Baton Rouge children could possibly want. A mansion, entry to the music business, and a father who overcame adversity. Charleston White, too. Using Tootie's demise as evidence that he is succeeding in his fight against rap culture, he has already moved on to the next target. For him, this was a triumph rather than a tragedy. The online arguments will subside, the memes will slow down, and the headlines will move to the next rapper scandal. Will Boosie's younger kids see this as a lesson? Or will they follow the same path, trying to prove themselves until the streets claim them too? Because if history has shown us anything, it's that the streets don't care who your father is. They'll chew you up the same way they did everyone else.